You clicked on the link, gone away. I hope not. Oh, sorry about that. That's been a thing, yeah. Just had to go reset my router. If it drops out again, I do apologise, and I'll stream next week. I didn't expect to be having internet issues this evening, but it seems that it doesn't want to be, doesn't want to play ball basically. So yeah, hopefully it won't drop, but you never know. Maybe, I don't know. I do apologise. So where was I at? So yeah, I was deleting these edges. I mean, this requires a little bit of work. You could have a cylinder that has more edges. I just find it. This is just the way that I work, basically. So it's probably still a bit too much. But what we can do now is, pardon me. So if we extrude this, move that to center. So that's lowest, this is highest. So this is what I'm going to bake from. This is going to have some nice curvature, and if I harden the edge, harden the edge, harden the edge, you're going to get what we want here. So this one, I'm actually going to strip out every other edge loop here. What I'm doing is just double clicking. Okay, there you go. So it's, yeah, it's way cheaper now. So let's have a look. Just going to move that off to the side. Let's have a look at what's a bit closer up on this. It looks like it's square. So the bit I'm referring to is here. So we've got this kind of square, like palette of sense, and then it's like angled in there, around there. So yeah, we'll build that next. I'm just going to turn off the grid for the time being. Oh, it works now when I've got no viewers. That's great. Internet. not the best time to message me, but yeah, okay. I'll deal with that in a minute. Let me just combine these. I'm just going to use the append polygon tool to fill out the gaps. Pretty decent one. Okay, so this needs to go a bit higher. And this needs to go about there. This might be a bit too high, you know. Is that alright? Do that. Okay, let's get the cylinder. So what I can do now is, if I just go insert Edgeloop and go like that and like that, I will delete those in a minute because they're pointless, but what I can do is that. So I know that's in the center of that square, and it's what we call construction lines, so I can start to build this roughly where I need to here, on here. So if I bevel that, add some segments in. So I'd say I need to bring in, say, 4 edge loops. Bring those out. Okay, and then move this up. All I'm doing is just deleting the faces. It's like a 2 And then so if we look at the mannequin. Okay, it's quite high. It's going to sit up around here. So yeah, so next thing I need to do is just this lip, which I can't really get a good feel for, but it's all right. Let's try that again, shall we? So let me duplicate that, change the scale so it's in the y-axis, and then combine both of these together, merge the verts. I'm just going to bring this slightly out to over exaggerate this point. Okay, when I'm happy with that, I'm just gonna not do that. I'm just gonna fix this a little bit because it does seem that it goes in slightly. Just gonna go over the top as well. Okay, so that's that. Let's get out of soft selection mode. The only issue is this is now crap, so it's better just to redo it than to try and thingy. But I do want to create this kind of lip here, and then we can do the ring bit. So let's give that another go. 3. I'm not happy with that. Let's just do this. When I'm happy, I will combine these all together, grab all the vertices and merge them. It's kind of important. Looks like the stream is more stable now. Great, that's brilliant. Don't really need that. Let's have a look at the size, just so we can see it. Yeah, I think that's about right. I think this might be a bit too big. Let's have a quick look at the top of this. So yeah, it's just a square block. So what we can do is, again, rotate this around. Because we've roughly got the shape, we just need to get rid of the bits that we don't need in the shape, which is like all this bit here. Let's delete that, grab the faces, there we go. Okay. Cool, so let's get the wireframe off this so I can see it. So let's grab boom, 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 boom. Okay, let's do the circular round thing here. Then we can get on with this bit here, and all I've got to do is just this bit and this metal bit here. Yeah. Just going to combine them for the minute, so I won't merge the vertices because I don't want to keep them. I want to separate them in a bit when I UV them. But for now, I can just like combine them so they're all together, and we can get an idea of what this looks like with all four legs. And because this is a semicircle, we can do this. So I duplicate it and then hold J and rotate it into position. Duplicate of it. So then we have those four things. And I mean, the thing is, we can scale this. So if this is still too big, especially if we put it in the... Oh, sorry about that. If we put it into Unreal and it looks too big, we can scale it and depend on it. So yeah. So next thing I'm going to do is this little bit here. And then I'm going to get the circle here. And then get the globe itself. So let's build this bit. Again, it's good to keep that face there. So this is quite big. It's about there. It's going to be interesting to do the pattern work. Welcome to the chat. Just as apology, I've been having quite bad internet problems to the first part of this stream, so if anybody did try and tune in at the start and there was just nothing, I do apologise. The internet just seemed to die. Probably about there. Okay, so first thing is there is a lip. So if I just bring this over, you can see that there's a lip here, and it will go lip, lip, and then cylinder. So what I'm going to do is, and then I think I was a bit too soon on those ones, so they can move up there for a minute. Get rid of that. So, where are we at now? I always do this. I always go back and forth with the reference just to make sure that I'm on track with what I'm trying to achieve. So let's no. Let's not do that. There's a little bit of a gap, so I could do this now. So -1. Dot. Not believe it. Yeah, that's what I just did. Yeah. It's a really cool tool. Like, so you can properly flip it. Oh, was that a question or a thingy? Were you telling me? I don't know. Yeah, no. Scale Y flips it. So if you're duplicating stuff, let's not do that. So for example, say I wanted to, I'll do it on this piece here. Say I was like working it on half of it. Why flips not scales? You're basically just flipping the object. So because the scale, if you say, if for example, if I did this, I'll put the pivot in the right place. And I duplicated it and did like -1. It's still keeping the same scale, but all you're doing is you're just changing the axis. Not the axis, but you're changing the direction of it. So as long as, if I was to do say -2, that wouldn't work because then you're changing the scale of it. But because you're just doing it in the -1, you're doing the same scale, but you're just flipping it over basically. There is a mirror tool inside of Maya, but when I used to use it. Yeah, I know, it's really weird, but it was something that I stumbled on about 5 years ago when mirror tool inside of Maya became very buggy for me. And I was like, oh, cool, this works. And I've used it ever since. But then people show me and they show me the mirror tool, which it works now. But when they first introduced it, when I was using Maya, it just didn't. No. So like, if I combine this all, let me just finish this bit here. Yeah, so if I combine all this together now and grab the verts, you'll notice 781, and if I do a merge vert, 681. So as long as you don't do too much editing to it, it'll snap. And even if you do have some issues where maybe, say, this is slightly off and you want it to properly snap, what I do is I'll combine both of these together, and then I'll grab all the vertices and I'll hold J and drag the scale inwards. And then that just kind of brings everything together so that when you do the weld, everything's sitting on top of each other, so it should just weld with no problems. Sometimes you have to go in and have a look, but like, yeah, so that all I did there was select all the verts that I want to snap, hold J, and then dragged it center. And this works for, say, for example, two-face. Oh, hang on. Then I'll grab the verts, merge them, and there you go. It's fixed. Say, for example, two-face. Hang on. Say you wanted that flat, yes. I just prefer doing it this way than snap. But with that snap scale, you're not scaling, you're just snapping things so that they start to become in line with each other. So obviously for organic stuff you don't want that, but for hard surface stuff you want things, especially if it's mechanic. You look at a mechanical object, it has those straight lines and that sort of stuff, so it just depends what you're modeling. But if I grab this now, I can flatten it back out, and then if I select all of this and do the same, you can see it's now all level with each other, and it just makes it easier when you're working on stuff. I mean, a lot of this is quite high poly at the moment, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to bake the information down And it's better. I always find it's easier to work high poly to low poly, just because, yeah, it is preference. A lot of this stuff is, so you might find a way of doing it, and it might suit you. It might not. It just all depends on preference. As long as you get the same result at the end, I think that's all that matters. There's a little bit over here and then a little bit there. Okay, let's get that cylinder. I'm going to start with a fresh one because that's just going to be a pain to try and edit. What I can do is, though, I can make sure it's centered. Okay, doesn't look like there's a lip on that, so it's going to be a lot easier. So one thing I don't want to do is any Z fighting or any clipping issues. So sometimes it's just easier for me to leave a little bit of a gap between two objects, just so that you don't get any kind of like issues. And again, I'm just double checking to make sure that's roughly where I want it. And then I'm just going to do a Boolean. So difference, and that gets me that. Tool wise, it's all right tool if you've ever used it. You just have to do a bit of cleanup sometimes on it, so sometimes it's kind of not worth doing it. I am going to make this more spherical now because oh, hello. You see there was an issue there. What's your issue? Unwelded verts. Yep. Yeah. Good tool. 3 on the keyboard tends to help bring out any issues with and you can normally tell, especially insert Edgeloop tool. That's quite a good tool to tell if there's a slight problem with your mesh. So I'm just gonna duplicate this. Now the reason why I'm doing a smooth mesh is just so that I can kind of get that circular, because there's nothing worse than if you've got something spherical and you can see the polygons because you haven't got enough edge flow in there, edge flow to support the geometry. So what I tell my students is that if it needs the geometry, put it in there. If the geometry is not doing anything, get rid of it, basically. So we can either do smooth mesh, which is smooth. Which is roughly what we want. If you do the other way, which is modify smooth mesh preview to polygons, that's going to add more polygons in there. So I'm just going to do, oh, it does it, smooth. Let's have a look at that without the wireframe. I'm still getting that issue. So let's do modify convert smooth mesh preview. There we go. We get a nice round thing to it, but again, it's 5,000 polygons. We need to clean it up, so just grab all the edges that I don't want. Control delete, and that gets rid of them. I'm going to keep these two in. There may be a faster way of doing this. If anybody does know that, that's great. I'm always trying to find faster ways of doing some of this stuff. What I've got now is I've got the soften. The normals have been softened because of the smooth mesh, and I can start to take out some of this geometry. So every other one is a good start. One thing I will do again is I will duplicate that, because then I can use that for the high poly bake if need be. I'm holding shift and double clicking and then pressing control delete. If you try and delete that without using control delete, it will leave all the verts there. So yeah, you have to then go and clean the verts up. So yeah, back to a good number. Next thing is the globe itself, and then we will work on this band that goes around it. Now, one of the things I will do before I'm actually in here is that I'll do everything on the straight, and only once I've UV'd it will I then position it, just because it's just easier to UV when it's straight. So let's grab a sphere. That's probably a bit too big. Okay, now I need to create this band that goes around and sits around it and basically holds it into position. So here. So I'm just going to hide Bob as well, because I don't need him for the time being. I do need the side view though, or some form of side view. Now, I could leave it like that-ish, he says. But I think it's actually a little bit... I think the depth's fine, minus it being slightly off. But I do want to cut this through, so I'm just going to duplicate this, so just in case I do decide to destroy it, it's still there. Okay, no, because if you look at the you see how we've got this gap? So I don't want it sitting snug. Let's do this. Boolean difference. Let's no. There we go. So yeah, so that's just grabbing the tool and making sure it's thinking. So I think that should be fine. Convert smooth mesh. Concentration face on. I'm going to delete those faces because you're not going to see them. So yeah, and I could again try and model that. But what I'm going to do is it's just easier to do this. And there you go. So yeah, so I've got my my globe, which is built off this reference here. Let me just try and Okay, so that's the globe. So yeah, pretty much the same profile. It's a bit more short and fatter, I think, in this photo. But if we measure it against the reference that I've got that I'm using for the project, Bob 2.0, yeah, it's slightly too big. That's huge. Like, he's way above 6 foot in this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rescale it roughly now that I've got it. I'm just going to keep everything separate as well. Delete all that. And I'm just going to turn the grid back on. One thing I do want to do is this. So I could delete this in a bit, but for now I want to. Oh, hello. That face can get deleted. So if I just grab that edge, go Control, 2 vertices, and then I can merge to center. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find where the pivot is, and I'm just going to put it at the bottom of here for the group, and then snap it down. And there you go, snapped on. So yeah, so that's the globe. I'm going to now UV this, and then I'll try and texture it. I don't know how much of the texture I'm going to get done, because this is quite intricate pattern work, so I'm going to have to make that inside of Photoshop and then bring that inside of Substance to paint it, because it is inlaid in the wood. So what I can do is I can actually make an alpha for this, and then overlay it as a layer inside of Substance and have that kind of wood finish on it as well. So what I'll do is next bit is the UVs. Now UVing, it's all right. I don't mind it. Some people hate it, I don't know, but some people like it. The only thing I do is I do listen to more rocky stuff when I'm UVing, so I'm going to put some rock playlist on. Okay. So UV editor, if you've seen this before, it's cool. It's got some really cool stuff in it. Like, I started using Maya back in 2008 was the first year of my university course, and we were using Maya 2008, whatever it was then. I think it was Maya 8 actually. And yeah, so I've been using it since then. This has come a long way. I will give them credit for that. They've done a good job, especially with some of the new tools and that sort of stuff. So okay, so I've got this. One thing I am going to do. Okay, that's the bottom. Is I'm going to grab these faces and I'm going to cut. I always start with automatic mapping. You should never just leave it with automatic mapping. You should always stitch it back together and go from there. But I always start with a UV unwrap and then go from there. Sorry. I always start with an automatic map and then I start to stitch, basically. So, and what I did there was I created a shell. No, I didn't, because it didn't work. So let's create UV shell. Now that's giving me this shell to work with, which is the top one. And if I put the checker on, and then what I can do is, because now I'm just going to select all the faces, cut. This means they're all uncut, and it means when I grab the outer edge ring like this and stitch together, it stitches it all together. I will come to the globe. There's a couple of ways. There's the spherical mapping, but there's also laying it out flat and actually flattening it to see, and that's one way. With the sphere as well, because there's no deformation in it, we should be able to get a nice flat wrap out of it. We can also use something called unfold, which kind of takes the information and then kind of it will unfold it, so it'll actually soften the UVs. But in the stream, I will get to it, and we'll go through and see which is the best method, best way of doing it. But the only way you can find out is if you try it yourself, basically. So let me stitch together. And I'm just pressing G to repeat the tool. So this is the unfold tool. So if you grab all the UVs, oh, okay. I was singing your praises a minute ago, Maya. Why did you do this to me? Let's have a look. What's the problem? There you go. An issue with non-manifold geometry. I still don't quite understand it, but yeah, there we go. That's fixed it. I can actually grab the merge UVs as well. So yeah, so what that does is it just kind of like unfolds it, and like obviously you're going to get this angle and this warping, but for how small this is, that's not too much of an issue. And it means that everything that you're doing is going to be closely together. So yeah, Unfold is a really good tool. Let's stitch that, and let's just do another Unfold, and let's do a merge UVs. So that's that done. So I'm just going to UV one of these. Although you would normally, back in the day, you would have these on the same UV island. But for nowadays, if you want to do unique scratching and that sort of stuff, that you can't do that, because if you do a scratch on one bit, then it's going to be on all four if the UVs are over the top of each other like that. So even though these are going to share different, these are going to have different UV islands. I just UV1 duplicate it around, so wherever that's possible I do that. Now earlier on I did combine these. I'm just going to separate them so I can work on them a little bit easier, because this is a box shape, this is a cylinder shape, and actually when it comes to when we do some of this normal mapping, I'm going to want these two items separately, or else it's not going to look right basically. So let's do this one. So we always try and start from a point so I can see where it is. So this is it. So I know my seam is there. Just going to cut. Do you know what? Let's not do that. Yeah, you can do. But the problem, the only issue with that is that you're still gonna have a seam. So if I was to half this, you're gonna have this seam here, but you could just connect it together, and and just make sure that you get rid of that seam basically. One thing I'm also going to get rid of is this construction line, and get rid of this construction line as well. It was just used earlier so that I can actually plot where to put this basically. So next thing is if we just select can we get rid of that? Oh, I think we can, yes. Probably need that. The rest of it is fine. Okay, so this is spherical mapping. What I'm going to do is just try and sort this out. Let's just automatic map that a minute and let's find that out. So if I use spherical on that, I just by eye sort out the distance between there and there. Okay, and then with this one I can roughly get that. So what I did there was I orientated the shells so that I can start to do a stack shell like this. Like that. And then if I just rotate this, grab them and do a stack shell again, I can align these UVs together. And then what I can do is this. I can grab the edge, stitch it, because the problem with that was because this was flat, it's not going to like it. So now if we stitch this together and then so, there you go. I mean, you get a little bit of warping, but again we can do an unfold on that once we've got the whole thing, and it'll more than likely sort that issue out. But it's very minuscule, that is. So I'm just going to do the same with all the flat pieces. There we go. So you roughly get the size, and then you can start to fine tune that in anyway. So now when I move this out of the way, I can grab the edges like this and stitch. The only other issue is we still need to do a symmetrical map on this. So okay, next bit. That's very cool. And the last bit here. I don't need that because it's inside the thingy, so that's fine. Where else is the so, and then we just need to do these bits down here. Not happy with that, so I'll fix that now. With this one, I'm kind of mixing and matching. What I'll do is, because I can do this, and then that'll just take out, and it's fine. Because there's not much optimization to do on these, then this is kind of going to be my bake. I might take the odd few edge loops out. But this is why I've done all these duplicates over here, is because then I can easily get things back on there. Because one thing I can do is because generally the shapes of this aren't going to change. If I change the silhouette on this anymore, you're gonna start to see the edging. With this though, this will be my low poly because I still need geometry to support it. And like I said, what I can do is I can do this, and then that will kind of delete it, and it should be all right. This is a little bit squashed though. That's because my bad UV on this one. There we go. So yeah, so this post is actually probably going to be the final one. The only other option would be as if I find it's way too much. I think may have to do some changes in a minute on that. I think I may have jumped ahead. What I could do is completely get rid of that. We'll see. I'd rather keep it high at the moment and then do a couple of test bakes just to see what it's looking like before I thingy it. Yeah, you wouldn't UV a high poly. So for example, like this version here, you wouldn't UV it because you're not going to use it. It's throwaway modeling. I might still use this, so that's why I've UV'd it, and I can easily take out edge loops and that sort of stuff after. So if we unfold this now, But you don't need to. Straight's fine for this one. It hasn't got too much deformation in there. Let's also want to think about this. I think this one we might get away with doing a lot of spherical. Because there isn't much. Minus that and there. Okay, let's give this a go. Ooh. Doesn't like something. What doesn't it like? This bit here. So yeah, so you probably noticed there I had some little issues with that merge, which is now fixed. Okay, which bits aren't going to work properly here? Okay, so let's grab that edge, that edge, that edge, and that edge. And let's grab edge ring, two face, and let's automatic map it. Ooh, that one has worked though. That's interesting. Okay. 2 UV shell. Cut. Stack. Don't do that. Orientate shell first. Because they're flat. So those bits there are flat, so you're going to get warping and it's going to not work properly. So because they're actually 90 degrees, cylindrical mapping won't work on them. So you would have to then extract those faces and redo the UVs. So the better way, so if you've got like a flat surface like that, or even an angled surface like this, but this is definitely flat, it's better to just automatic map it, orientate the shells and then stitch them back together here. I'll show you what I mean in a minute. Let me just finish doing this bit here. Okay. So there might be an issue here with this because it's so different to square that it's not a square, it's a whatever that shape is. So the best way to fix this is, so if we stack the shells, stack those, and if we line center, and plus you're not really going to see this, so we might get away with it. Stack shells. again, I think we might be able to get away with this being spherical. It's all about testing and seeing what it's looking like. I'm guessing that is the top bit. Yep. Oh yeah. Let me grab that face, that rogue face that just decided to. Come back here. There we go. So yeah, so some bits you can spherical map, anything that's facing outwards like that, but anything that's on a 90-degree up or down. Sometimes if it's on too much of a more than a 45-degree, you kind of have to just play around and mess around with it. I would leave this as it is. You're not going to really see it, but at the same time, I don't want to kind of force that too much. I mean, again, the worst case is that you would just grab all this and go unfold. But again, you're going to start to get some issues with that. So we can leave that as it is, and that'll be fine. But yeah, like I said, like that 90-degree angle just doesn't work on spherical. So if I do that again, one thing I will do is soften edges. So say I do a spherical on the whole thing. Can you see? Like how the top isn't working. There's a lot of things to fix there just because it just isn't working. So I would have to go in and double check things. So making it separately like that but stitching it together just is a little bit quicker than trying to figure out what that mess is there. I basically nuke it from orbit. I'm just going to put a hard edge here, just for that. But yeah, so we got left to do. Delete those. Let's not do that. What is wrong with you? Not quite what I want. So off the bat, the this is all right. We can do a little bit of that. The only issue you're going to get is when it starts to come up to here. So let's have a quick look at it. Let me change this to a bit more subtle. Like if I unfold this, yeah. Because what you want to try and do is you want to try and keep this as thingy, because this is going to be an issue. Is that still a thing? Just bear with me on this one. So I'm just going to experiment a little bit just to see if we can get it right. There was a way you could used to do old skyboxes. I'm just trying to remember how you would do them. It was like a polarize. Oh, that's going to bug me. Let me give this a go. I think this was... because it was only half, this would work. Because yeah, that's going to be a bit of a pain. A shame though, because yeah, basically that is a really cool way of doing it. Sure. Okay. I think the best way to do this, I'm struggling here a little bit to figure out. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make the texture for the globe and just see if I can actually put it on. So let's just get a quick globe texture. Yeah, a lot of this stuff I haven't done for a while. God, I haven't used Photoshop for ages. Okay, so how do they do that? Polar coordinates. Ah, polar coordinates. That's the one. Filter other. Oh, where was that? Distort polar. Filter. Distort. It's a quick thing. Quick fix. Let me. Save as. Let's target this on the desktop. Aha. So, what you could have is that, but then, yeah, it's still not quite right. Because of this bit here. Thought that might work. That's a shame. Thought that actually might work. Let me just do something. So. Bit better, but then it's like how am I going to fix this bit, because that's the bit that's thingy. So what I could do with using this method is splitting it in two, the texture, and having like half the map on one and half the map on the other. So in essence, so like So basically polarizing this one. What's up with you? I don't know whether this is going to work. This is guesswork here. This is just trying to see what solution works, basically. So not quite, no. That didn't work. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to come back to this when I've done a little bit more research on it. Just generally because this isn't working how I'd want it to. I mean, you don't want to automatic map it. That is an issue. Spherical. Again, the problem you're going to have with those is you're still going to need to clean up these top bits because they're just not going to work. This would be ideal, but then you got to make sure that this seam here and the seam at the bottom doesn't screw up, basically. Yeah, it's a tricky one. That'd be nice if that worked. Where's that one? No. Okay, well, I'm gonna have to leave it there for the thingy. That's a bit disappointing. I'm a bit annoyed with that. What I'll do is for next week's I'll start off with this bit and thingy. Could you unwrap this sphere into a rectangle the same? That would work on the side ones, but it wouldn't work on the top ones because it's going to get distorted. But what I could do is I could do that around the side where the main map is, and then at the top, UV it from the top and bottom, and then just try very hard not to get the seams. It just means that there's going to be a seam there and a seam roughly there. So we could actually could do this. Yeah. I mean, we could even get away with doing to that, and that might work, and then I just have to manage the bottom bits basically and just make sure the seams aren't too bad on them. So yeah, so that could actually work. If I just quickly just realize the time. There you go. But again, we would just have to basically manage these bits, and maybe it'd work. Basically, just be very mindful of that. Yeah, that could work actually. Just pushing it as far as you can on the rectangles, and then once that stops, UV bottom, top, and painting the seams and stuff inside of Photoshop or Substance Painter. So yeah, cool. Okay then, so I'm going to end the stream there. Sorry for any problems we had at the start of the stream. I do apologise, my internet was being pretty rubbish. And yeah, I'll see you next week.